If you're from one of 7 Asian countries or you have family members waiting for visas from these nations, the next few minutes could completely change how you approach your immigration plans. We're talking about a developing situation that's affecting hundreds of thousands of people right now, and if you don't understand what's happening, you could find yourself caught off guard with no backup plan. I'm here to walk you through exactly what this visa freeze means, which countries are impacted, what's really going on behind the scenes with green card processing, and most importantly, what concrete steps you can take today to protect yourself and your loved ones. This is Immigration News Today, and I'm bringing you verified, up-to-date information that you can actually use. Let's get right into it. So here's what we know as of February 2026. Reports have been circulating about visa processing delays and what some are calling a freeze affecting applicants from 7 Asian nations. Now, before we go any further, I want to be very clear about something. The term freeze gets thrown around a lot in immigration conversations, and it can mean different things depending on the context. Sometimes it refers to a complete halt in processing. Sometimes it means enhanced security screenings that slow everything down, and sometimes it refers to quota backlogs that make it feel like nothing is moving. What we're seeing right now appears to be a combination of enhanced vetting procedures, administrative processing delays, and in some cases, temporary pauses in certain visa categories for nationals of specific countries. This is not the first time we've seen this kind of situation, and understanding the pattern helps us navigate it more effectively. The 7 countries that are reportedly affected include Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and in some reports, certain regions or documentation issues from India and the Philippines are also seeing heightened scrutiny. Now, these lists can vary slightly depending on which visa category we're talking about and which specific security concerns are being addressed. What's consistent across the board is that applicants from these countries are experiencing significantly longer wait times, more frequent requests for additional documentation, and in some cases, administrative processing that extends for months or even longer. This affects multiple visa categories, including family-based green cards, employment-based visas, student visas, and visitor visas, though the severity varies by category and individual circumstances. Let me give you some context so you understand how we got here. The United States immigration system operates on a complex framework of laws, regulations, and security protocols that have been built up over decades. After September 11, 2001, the U.S. implemented additional security screening measures for visa applicants from certain countries, and these measures have evolved over time. Various administrations have adjusted these protocols based on diplomatic relationships, security assessments, fraud patterns, and international cooperation on information sharing. What we're seeing now in early 2026 is the result of several converging factors. There have been updated security protocols from the Department of Homeland Security, enhanced vetting requirements that were announced in late 2025, and ongoing efforts to address document fraud and identity verification challenges that are more prevalent in certain regions. According to official guidance from USCIS and the State Department, these enhanced vetting procedures are designed to protect national security and ensure the integrity of the immigration system. The agencies have stated that they're working to balance security needs with efficient processing, but the reality on the ground is that many applicants are stuck in what feels like an endless waiting period. When we look at the data from the State Department's visa statistics, we can see processing times for certain categories from these countries have increased substantially. What used to take 6 to 12 months might now take 18 months or longer, and that's assuming there are no additional complications. Now let's talk specifically about the green card situation because this is where a lot of confusion and concern is concentrated. Green cards, or lawful permanent residents, come through several pathways. You have immediate relative categories for spouses, children, and parents of U.S. citizens. You have family preference categories for siblings and adult children. You have employment-based categories ranging from priority workers to skilled workers to special immigrants. Each of these categories has its own processing system, and each can be affected differently by these enhanced vetting measures. What we're hearing from immigration attorneys and from applicants themselves is that family-based green card applications from the 7 affected countries are seeing significant delays at multiple stages. This includes delays in the initial petition approval, delays in the National Visa Center processing, and delays in interview scheduling at consular posts. Some applicants report that their cases have been in administrative processing for over a year after their interview with no clear timeline for resolution. Employment-based green cards are facing similar challenges, though the situation is somewhat different depending on the category. EB1, EB2, and EB3 categories all require labor certification and USCIS petition approval before an applicant can move to the consular processing stage or adjustment of status. Applicants from the affected countries are finding that even after their I-140 petitions are approved, they're hitting roadblocks when it comes to the final stages. If they're processing through a consulate abroad, they're encountering the same administrative processing delays we mentioned earlier. If they're adjusting status within the United States, they may face longer wait times for interviews and additional requests for evidence. One of the most challenging aspects of this situation is the lack of transparency and predictability. Unlike quota backlogs where you can track visa bulletin movement and estimate wait times, administrative processing and enhanced vetting delays are largely opaque. The government doesn't provide detailed timelines, and each case seems to move at its own pace based on factors that aren't always clear to the applicant or even to their attorney. This creates tremendous stress and uncertainty for families who are separated, for workers who are in limbo, and for everyone trying to plan their lives around immigration timelines. So what can you actually do if you're affected by this situation or if you think you might be? First, and most importantly, if you have a pending visa application or green card case and you're from one of the affected countries, you need to stay proactive. Don't assume that silence means progress. Check your case status regularly on the USCIS website using your receipt number if you have a domestic application. If your case is with the National Visa Center or a consulate, check the NVC online system and stay in contact with the consulate through proper channels. Document everything. Keep copies of all correspondence, all documents you've submitted, and all requests you've received. If you're asked for additional documentation, respond promptly and completely. Delays in responding can add weeks or months to your processing time. Second, if your case has been in administrative processing for an extended period, you have options. You can submit inquiries through the State Department's Administrative Processing Inquiry System. This won't necessarily speed things up, but it creates a record and sometimes prompts action. You can reach out to your congressional representative's office for assistance. Congressional inquiries don't guarantee results, but they can sometimes help identify if there's a specific issue holding up your case. You can consult with an immigration attorney who has experience with administrative processing cases. They may be able to identify issues you haven't considered or suggest strategies for moving your case forward. Third, if you're planning to apply for a visa or green card and you're from one of these countries, you need to factor in significantly longer processing times. If you're on a timeline because of work authorization expiration, aging out issues for children, or any other time-sensitive factor, you need to plan accordingly and explore backup options. This might mean applying for extensions of your current status well in advance, considering alternative visa categories if available, or in some cases adjusting your overall immigration strategy based on realistic timelines. Let me walk you through a few scenarios so you can see how this plays out in real life. Imagine you're a software engineer from Pakistan working in the United States on an H-1B visa. Your employer sponsored you for an employment-based green card, and your I-140 petition was approved 2 years ago. You've been waiting for your priority date to become current, and it finally did last month. You file your I-485 adjustment of status application, and now you're waiting for your interview. Under normal circumstances, you might expect an interview within 6 to 12 months. In the current environment, you could be waiting 18 months or longer, and there's a possibility of additional security checks that extend the timeline further. What should you do? Make absolutely sure your H-1B is valid, and that you file for extensions well before expiration. Keep your employer informed about potential delays. Document everything related to your green card application. Consider consulting an attorney if you hit any unexpected requests for evidence, or if your case seems stalled beyond normal processing times. Here's another scenario. You're a U.S. citizen, and you petition for your brother who lives in Bangladesh. The I-130 petition was approved 3 years ago, and his priority date just became current. He's scheduled for an interview at the U.S. consulate in Dhaka. He goes to the interview, provides all the requested documents, and the consular officer tells him his case is being held for administrative processing. Weeks turn into months with no update. What can he do? First, he should follow any instructions the consulate provided. If they asked for additional documents, he needs to provide them immediately. He should check the consular processing status online regularly. After 60 days of administrative processing, he can submit an inquiry through the State Department system. You, as the U.S. citizen petitioner, can contact your congressional representative and ask them to submit an inquiry on your brother's case. You can also consult with an immigration attorney who may have experience with similar cases from that particular consulate. One more scenario to consider. You're a graduate student from Nepal on an F1 visa. You're planning to apply for optional practical training after graduation so you can work in the United States for a year or potentially longer if you qualify for the STEM extension. You're concerned that visa restrictions might affect your ability to travel or to transition to another visa status in the future. What should you do? First, maintain your F1 status meticulously. Make sure you're enrolled full-time, that you're making normal progress toward your degree, and that your SEVIS record is up to date. When you apply for OPT, do it as early as possible within the application window, typically 90 days before your program end date. If you have any questions or concerns about your status, consult with your designated school official immediately. If you're planning to travel outside the United States while on OPT, understand that you'll need a valid visa to return, and visa appointments at consulates are experiencing delays. Plan any travel carefully and consider the risk that you might face longer processing times or administrative holds when applying for a new visa stamp. Now, let's address some of the questions and concerns that come up frequently in situations like this. People often ask whether these visa restrictions are permanent or temporary. Based on what we've seen historically, enhanced vetting measures can remain in place for extended periods, sometimes years, but they can also be adjusted or lifted based on changing circumstances. Diplomatic relationships evolve, security protocols are refined, and administrative capacity can improve. The key point is that we can't predict with certainty how long current delays will last, which is why it's so important to plan for longer timelines and to stay informed about any policy changes. Another common question is whether there are any visa categories that are less affected by these delays. Generally speaking, humanitarian cases such as refugee resettlement and asylum processing, as well as certain special immigrant visas for individuals who worked with the U.S. government, may have different processing tracks, though they face their own challenges. Immediate relative categories for spouses, minor children, and parents of U.S. citizens are supposed to have unlimited visa numbers and priority processing, but they're not immune to security vetting delays. The bottom line is that no category offers a guaranteed fast track if you're from one of the affected countries under current policies. People also ask what they can do to strengthen their case or to avoid delays. While you can't control the overall policy environment, you can control the quality and completeness of your application. Submit clear, well-organized documentation. Provide certified translations for any documents not in English. Be thorough in answering questions on forms. Disclose any prior immigration issues or complications honestly, as failing to do so can create bigger problems later. If you're working with an attorney, make sure they have experience with cases from your country, and that they're familiar with common issues that arise during processing. It's also worth discussing the broader implications of these visa delays. Families are separated for years longer than anticipated. Workers face uncertainty about their ability to remain in the United States or to bring their families here. Students worry about their future options. The economic and personal costs are substantial. There are ongoing discussions in policy circles about the need to balance security concerns with the reality that our immigration system depends on efficient processing and predictable timelines. Various advocacy organizations are working to highlight these issues and to push for reforms that maintain security while reducing unnecessary delays. Whether and when such reforms might materialize is uncertain, but it's important to know that these concerns are being raised at multiple levels. Let me also touch briefly on the international context because what happens with U.S. immigration policy doesn't exist in a vacuum. Other countries have their own visa and immigration policies, and some are implementing changes that affect travelers and immigrants as well. For instance, the European Union is rolling out the European Travel Information and Authorization System, known as ETS, which requires advance authorization for visa-exempt travelers, and the Entry-Exit System, or EES, which will register entry and exit data for non-EU nationals. These aren't directly comparable to the U.S. situation, but they reflect a global trend toward enhanced screening and data collection in the name of security. Understanding these broader patterns can help contextualize what we're experiencing with U.S. visa processing, even though the specific policies and impacts differ. As we head toward the end of this discussion, I want to reinforce a few critical points. First, immigration policy can and does change, sometimes rapidly and with limited notice. What's accurate today might shift next month or next year. That's why staying informed through reliable sources is so important. Check official government websites regularly. USCIS.gov, the State Department's travel.state.gov, and the DHS website are your primary sources for policy updates and processing information. Follow credible news outlets that cover immigration policy thoroughly and accurately. Reuters, the Associated Press, major newspapers like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and the BBC all have immigration reporters who provide fact-based coverage. Be cautious about information you see on social media or forums, as it can be outdated, inaccurate, or based on individual experiences that don't reflect broader policy. Second, while this video provides information and context, it is not legal advice. Every immigration case is unique, with its own facts, circumstances, and legal considerations. If you have specific questions about your situation, you should consult with a qualified immigration attorney. Many attorneys offer initial consultations, and some provide services on a sliding scale or pro bono for those who can't afford regular fees. Organizations like the American Immigration Lawyers Association can help you find attorneys in your area. Don't try to navigate complex immigration issues alone, especially when delays and complications are involved. Third, take action based on where you are in the process. If you're planning to apply, start gathering documents now and understand that timelines will be longer than you might hope. If you have a pending case, stay on top of it, respond to any requests promptly, and don't hesitate to seek help if things seem stalled. If you're facing a deadline or a time-sensitive issue, explore all available options and get professional guidance. Being proactive and informed is your best strategy in an uncertain environment. As we wrap up, I want to remind you why immigration news today exists. We're here to cut through the noise, to give you accurate information based on official sources and verified reporting, and to help you understand what's happening in the immigration world so you can make informed decisions. The situation with visa delays affecting these 7 Asian nations is serious, and it's impacting real people and real families, but with the right information and the right approach, you can navigate it. Stay informed, stay proactive, and don't lose hope even when the process feels overwhelming. If this video was helpful to you, please take a moment to like it and share it with anyone you know who might be affected by these visa delays. Subscribe to Immigration News Today so you don't miss future updates, because we're constantly monitoring policy changes and bringing you the information you need to stay ahead. Check the video description below for links to official resources, including USCIS, the State Department, and other trusted sources where you can verify information and get updates directly. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. Thousands of people are navigating these same challenges, and by staying informed and supporting each other, we can get through it together. Thank you for watching Immigration News today. Take care, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next update.